We are recording, so I will start again. So hello everybody again. I wanted to just welcome you all to this AMEC Measurement Month event, where in collaboration we have Press Relations and PR News presenting, and I'm actually really glad to be able to moderate for you. My name is Romina Kharsouni, and I'm Press Relations Strategy Manager. And before I introduce our speakers, I would really like to ask everyone attending to mute their mics if they are not speaking, just to avoid having a lot of noise during the presentation. That would be fantastic. And then I would like to just move on and introduce our speakers for today. Our speakers are Lilia Glazova, PR News CEO. She's actually a very well-rounded professional, and she has been in our industry for already many years, and I couldn't be happier to have her today joining and presenting for us. And Maximillian Freissler, he is the head of Research and Analytics at Press Relations, Austria. Actually, Press Relations has 12 locations worldwide, and Maximillian is joining us from Austria today. So we have already a very international panel, and this is actually quite nice. I always like this mixture. And about the companies, you can see a little bit on the screen. I'm not going to read because I think you can do that on your own, but PR News is a specialist on everything that has to do with analysis and insights. Press Relations is focused mainly on monitoring, analysis, and system solutions. So we are going to have a very interesting presentation today on ESG, transformation and measuring of new business narratives. And with all of that being said, I will just allow our speakers to take it over. For everybody attending, please feel free to share your comments on the chat of the Zoom. And at the end of both presentations, we will have some 10 to 15 minutes for a brief exchange and Q&A session. So enjoy, and Lilia, the stage is yours. I will stop sharing so you can do it yourself.
Thank you, Romina. I'm Maximillian, Romina, and nice to see you here. And I think it's a wonderful tradition of International Association for Media Evaluation Companies, AMEC, to organize such kind of events and to give space, I would say, for their members to organize such kind of events. So, and I'm happy today, yes, to be a part of international events. Yes, Germany, Austria, and Russia in one place talking about ESG. That means that we are all interested in one topic. And I would say it's, yes, we were discussing it before, that's a fancy topic somehow, but we would try to speak about it today and to discuss it from a measurement point, which I think we are the trendsetters. Yes, I can call us trendsetters. Maybe it's my subjective point of view, but I haven't seen a lot of, research on ESG measurement, and that aspect that we would discuss today is really a new one. So yes, we are all the information you would see today from our side. All the information you would see from our outside, for example, it's fresh. We haven't shown it to anyone before, so you are the first ones. So be in these first places and enjoy your time. I will share my screen now. If it doesn't work, please let me know. But I hope everything is working.
Yes, it does.
Thank you, Romina. So my presentation we decided to show you our research on ESG and retail investors, and we think that it's really a new trend, new stakeholder, new target audience to work with, and one of the reasons why ESG became so popular topic for PR specialists, not only for investors, for people who are interested in investor relations or who are specialized in investor relations, but we are talking also about communication specialists. And I decided to name it, is it a laugh affair till the end of time, or is it a trend chasing? So will it be with us forever, or will it be just some time as a trend for 3-5 years? So what was our motivation and why we decided to look into this topic in more details? It's, of course, because of coronavirus. I think all the presentation now still begin with this coronavirus pandemic, and we are not the exclusion. So yes, really the coronavirus pandemic drove the surge in investing activity. And it happened thanks to digitalization. It happened to all other trends which are not only in investment sector, but yes, that was one of the reasons we looked in more details and we put our attention to this topic to investigate, I would say. And I would share with you the data for Russia, and it is one, I would say, information sphere that we had before the research. And one of the reasons why we decided to start the research, because you see the great increase and the great increased rate in unique active retail investors on Moscow Exchange. The increase was 6% from 2019 to 2020. And that's really a high increase, which finally continued to 11 million registered retail investors. And I would need to stop here and tell you what I mean by this retail investor, because really I had, I don't know, about half an hour discussion with our translator, how to translate. And Maximillian was also one with whom I discussed it. Is it private investor? Are they individual ones? Are they minor ones? How should we call them? And we still think that we should call them retail investors, but because this is the way how they go to invest. They're not they can be individuals, but they cannot be individuals. They can be private, they cannot be private, but they are retail investors. That's the main topic we are speaking about. And so what we did for on the first stage, it was a sample size of 400 respondents who bought or sold securities on stock market for themselves. That's the main part for retail investors in the past 6-12 years. And I hope you would like my pictures to describe those type of retail investors, because the first one is the successful one. He is normally male, it can be female, but for example, in our research, they were mostly male, 55 plus, executive, they can afford investing more than 10% of their monthly income. That's a lot, really. And they has been investing for the last 1 to 3 years. So they have experience. That's why they can perceptive and feel themselves as successful ones. The second type of retail investor is independent. And I would say this is one of the most interesting type of the investors for communication specialists, because yes, they're new ones. They're young, sometimes even very young, so 18, 20, 23 years. They can be students. I just imagine students who invest, young professionals, and they view investing as additional source of income. That's an interesting also part, because it's a trend that they don't see their income, as a monthly salary, 10% of which they invest. They see investing as the income. And of course, it's a wonderful trend, and it's information for communication specialists how to develop their communication strategy, taking this into consideration. They can afford investing not more than 5% of monthly income, but I would say we should look into dynamics of such research, and we'll see, I truly believe in those independent ones, that they will increase their percentage of monthly income to invest. So I see them as the most prospective ones. And the last one are indifferent. They are non-executive employees. They are 25 to 34. They started investing as a way to try something new. Thanks to coronavirus, they have a lot of free time, and they decided, why should I not invest? So they can afford investing not more than 5% of monthly income. And of course, that makes sense, because they are still, it's still an experiment for them. Yes, they see it as something new. So those three types of retail investors, and let's see in what they invest. So let's see their behavior, what the companies they choose to invest. And we decided to call it as attractive industries. And of course, IT is the top, is the most attractive industry, no doubts on that. But I was disappointed, for example, for retail and transport and e-com to be on the last stages of this list. And but still we have a motivation, and it explains us the motivation of those retail investors, because, for example, they mix when they invest. That's a normal strategy for all investors, and their first mix, they take one from the top, one from the middle, and one from the last from the list. So, for example, they mix IT, healthcare, and retail. Then the next portfolio mix that they use, they mix something in the middle. So in manufacturing, telecom, transport, something from the last ones that they believe would increase. And the last portfolio mix, the most popular portfolio mix of retail investors, is the mix of commodities and energy. And you know, here we really see our first hypothesis, which will be checked on the next slides and on my next data, that shows that retail investors, compared to some traditional investors from some investment banks or financial institutions, look at investment based on their personal experiment. So if they see, I don't know, IT companies, the most fast-growing ones, they see it as the best investment for them package. So then that what brought us to reputation analysis, and what is the motivation for those retail investors, what they look at. And that's why we decided to show you the results of that research, because they're first factors to decide what to look at, how to look at the company, and what reputation factors, what reputation models are the most important to them when they make the decision for investment, is ESG, is the adherence to ESG values of the company. And that is based on their personal experience, and because one of the factors in this reputation model is high level of customer loyalty. So if they are loyal to that company, they will invest in it. So if they are loyal consumer, yeah, that means that they know about this company, they consume, they buy, or don't know, they take services of those company and of that brand. And if they are loyal to the brand, they will also invest in it. It's, you know, it's a very, really good result for communication specialists. Bring the brand value and you get the ESG value. That's the, you know, the direct correlation. But the second two factors in this reputation model are a factor of openness, transparency, and ethical, socially and environmentally responsible business. And that's a trend that we saw in all the communication trends for the last 2 years during the coronavirus, that those aspects of our life that we expect from the companies and brands to be open, to be transparent. We expect from them to be socially involved, environmentally responsible, ethical. So, and it's interesting to see that those parameters of reputation are on the first list for retail investors. Because if we compare this analysis with all traditional reputation surveys that we do, and when we survey the experts, investment experts, financial experts, and ask them if this, I don't know, social, corporate social responsibility, is it really a high factor, they wouldn't put it on the top. They would put on the top the other factors that are shown on this slide, as for effective management, clear business strategy, successful business strategy. Those would be the first factors in reputation perception of the company for traditional investors. But for retail investors, we see that 34% of variance goes to this factor, to all the ESG values. So really a very high correlation, and I would see as the main reputation factor for this target audience. And I would call it a new target audience for communication specialists, a new stakeholder group with whom we are really need to develop new principles and new standards how to work with. And that's why we also were talking about new business narratives on in the name of our session. So how are we going to talk with this target audience? What should we say to them? What is important to them? So the other two factors in these reputation models are the factor 2, which goes to success, team, and innovation. That's pretty traditional ones, which consist of effective management, strong financial operating results, innovation, and new technology. And the third factor, which, you know, it was a trend 5, maybe even 10 years ago, when we wanted a flexibility from the brands, quick reaction. There was a time when social media were growing very fast. So, but that factor now is top 3, only on the 3rd place, with successful and clear business strategy as one of the part of that factor, and flexible quick reaction as the 2nd part. So again, I would repeat that ESG is the main factor for retail investors. Then I talked a lot, how should we communicate with those retail investors? So we see they need ESG, we see they're new and important target audience and stakeholder for us, but what shall we do and how should we communicate? And thanks God, I would say, at least on the first place, they have the same as others. So they have those reports and analytics on brokers, asset management apps. But the second stage, you see its own knowledge and experience. Again, the personal experience with this brand makes their decision. It's on the second step, on the second stage. And other good news also for communication specialists, for PR specialists, is that they use financial sites, they use business news, they read investing blogs and communities on social media and message boards, which means, you know, it's always, for example, a discussion, should we as the brand talk about our corporate news on Facebook or on Instagram? Do we need to find some, I don't know, Instagram communities on investing and be part of those communities? You see the results. Yes, we should. Maybe it should be more simple language to talk about, not maybe some very small details that can be a motivation for that target audience, but still it's a message channel that we should, it's a communication channel that we should use in our communications. I would, you know, and Romina knows that I like Telegram as the main messenger and I believe in its future. And I was also happy to see in this list these Telegram blogs and 12%, good for them. So yes, I would be advising to the companies that Telegram can be also a channel if you want to work with this audience. And the last part, I would say, I decided to finish it, you know, with my little knowledge of French, and it's in French it will be like noblesse oblige. Sorry, my French pronunciation, but if we translate it from French, it's like obligation of noble birth. It means that most of the companies now who work with the investors and who see investors and retail investors as one of their target audience don't have any other choice than to talk about ESG. It's like their obligation of noble birth that they have no other choice. They need to talk, they have to do it. So my, I would say, best wishes to all of the companies and specialists working in these companies to be on the first place in this topic and use it actively in your communication strategies. So I'll be more than happy to answer your question, and Romina, I pass the stage to you.
Thank you, Lilia. And I couldn't avoid smiling, and I guess you know why I'm smiling. When you make these comments, you're just poking me, you know. But no, jokes aside, I mean, actually, I think that the words that you used to close your presentations were really proper and really helpful in order to connect now what Maximillian is gonna talk to us about, because he said, okay, so now we know ESG is here, ESG is important, and we have a new a new, let's say, target group, if you want to describe it like this, to talk to. And how do PR professionals talk to these people and what do they talk about? It's something that maybe Maximilian will be able to help us with, because press relations has a very specific research analysis tool that helps to discover, let's say, what can we talk to these people about, or which are the future potential trending topics to talk about. So I don't want to go into this any further. I think I should let Maximilian, who is the expert, talk about this. So Maximilian, the stage is yours.
So, thank you for the spoilers. My name is Maximillian Freissler. I'm head of Research and Analytics in our Austrian branch based in Vienna. And currently we are in lockdown, so welcome to my home office. And right now I'm trying to share my screen. So one of the most famous questions of the last 2 years, can everybody see my screen? And is this the right one?
Yes, it is the right one. We can see.
Okay.
And you are not on mute, so I'm actually really proud of all of you.
So thank you. Yeah, well, let me start. Just a moment. So in the following 15 minutes, I will give you a brief overview of measuring ESG media awareness and its role and importance for corporate communications. So for this purpose, as Romina has already said, we used our trend topic monitoring tool called First Signals. First Signals was developed and launched in, I think, 2014 by my colleague Oliver Hayden, and it allows us to detect new upcoming topics, concepts, ideas, and technologies emerging from scientific papers and taken over by more popular thought-leading media like The Economist, Forbes magazine, Fortune magazine, or TechCrunch. So our goal with this tool is to detect these topics when they still have low coverage, and to monitor them in their further development. Most of these topics will stay in the shadows of public reception for many years, but some of them may rise. And until then, only a small group of knowing players had the chance to occupy these topics and, for example, use it in communications for positioning as an early adapting and innovation-driven company. So the question is, which topics will shape strategic communications in the future? And which topics should build, and this is the question of this session, the framework for monitoring and measuring new business narratives? So with First Signals, we gathered a lot of data over the last 7 years, and this data shows us that ESG is one of the most prominent topics right now and will likely be in the future. But first things first, in the first step, I will focus on these topics which have already risen to the top and which are currently the most potential business narratives and paradigms of sustainable business. And these are like good governance, CSR, sustainable investment, and so on. Well, all of you will be familiar with concepts like fair trade, CSR, ESG, and most of you know about business ethics. So to my own surprise, the topics socially responsible investing, for example, or impact investment or sustainable investments, ranked in our research on the positions 4, 5, and 6 of the top topics. So our data shows that the power of investment has become a common tool which gives companies as well, and strongly growing, the general public a high leverage to shape a more green, more social, and more ethical future. But on top of all, and we see it on the right side, but on top of all, there's ESG, environmental, social, governance. And with you, I would like to take a closer look at it. So which are the currently most present upcoming topics and paradigms within ESG? Our research shows that the strongest individual environmental topics, so I'm by the letter E of ESG, biodiversity, decarbonization, clean tech, upcycling, and greenwashing. And due to the limited time, I can't explain all of these concepts, but at least I would like to pick up a few of them. So, for example, upcycling describes a variety of processes by which old products get a second life as they are turned into a new product. And thanks to the mix and aggregation of used materials, the end result has more value than the sum of its components. And in other words, upcycling is about readaptation and expanding the lifespan of products in a highly creative way. On the other side, biodiversity, it is on the top and the most complex feature of our planet. It's the most vital. The term was coined in 1985, but with other thoughts. Today, it represents a crisis equal to climate change and possibly worse. So it goes hand in hand with the term ecocide right now, the devastation and destruction of our ecological environment, risking global imbalance and mass extinctions. You probably remember the bestseller of Elizabeth Kolbert a few years ago, The Sixth Extinction. And both biodiversity and ecocide are driving forces for many movements like Fridays for Future. So the S in ESG stands for social, and there gender equality, or better, inequality, is currently highly represented. The peak in March, as you can see on the left side above, the peak in March resumes from the yearly International Women's Day, and the raising numbers in August and September, it's likely that they're mainly explained by the Taliban's takeover in Afghanistan. Diversity management, in the second position of our ranking, means corporate actions which are to promote greater inclusion of employees from different backgrounds, supporting respect for multiple lifestyles and personal characteristics. And the last character in ESG means governmental, and there carbon taxes have the largest share by far in media coverage. Several member states of the European Union, for example, have already passed the taxation of carbon emissions. For example, Austria will join this club in 2022. But still, several industrial leading nations haven't yet passed any mechanism to make the social costs of carbon emissions visible. But more and more companies are becoming under pressure to justify the ecological impact and to do better. So it's a very hot topic right now and should be considered in any measurement of corporate strategic communications. Same applies to the third largest topic, corporate tax transparency, and on the second position, global minimum corporate tax rate, aka GMCT. It's a fact that several of the biggest companies in the world have developed high abilities in avoiding corporate taxes. And that fact means also a strong and lasting image loss. And its image influence on corporate reputation is still growing. So to come short, in my last part, I would like to introduce you to some topics which in the near future might stay in competition to ESG as a prominent business narrative and paradigm. And I will show you some topics which haven't risen to wider popularity yet, but which have a high potential to do so in the future. And these topics are inclusive capitalism, hydrogen economy, green industrial revolution, the clean label movement, care economy, millennial philanthropy, and impact capitalism. So inclusive capitalism on the top and in its core serves the cause of human equality and diversity, and it cherishes the ecology of the planet alongside driving returns to shareholders. So inclusive capitalism is supported by people like, here it comes, Bill Gates, Prince Charles, Pope Francis, Bill Clinton, and it can be defined as a more responsible form of capitalism, which puts people at the heart of decision making, ensuring the well-being of citizens and guiding capital and innovation to solve social and environmental issues. The hydrogen economy in the second place. Well, it says it's using hydrogen to decarbonize economic sectors which are hard to electrify. And it's nothing new as a technology, but it's a rising topic in ESG and is likely to grow larger. So in order to phase out fossil fuels and limit climate change, hydrogen can be created from water using renewable sources such as wind and solar. And its combustion only releases water vapor to the atmosphere. So on the fifth place, for example, care economy. It's also nothing new, obviously, but because of the ongoing corona crisis, and now I've said it too, corona has gained increasing importance and will stay prominent in the future. And there are a lot of companies which have to deal with it. And because I found it for myself very interesting, because I didn't know it until a few weeks ago, the clean label movement. It's one of the biggest trends of the decade in the food industry. And it's regarding the confusion about the meaning of natural and artificial. So consumer demand for authenticity and transparency is driving the food industry to be discerning about ingredients and clean up supply chain. And in my view, all of these examples hold a high creative inspiration. And it's this inspiration, this potential, which is affecting growing masses of people, moving our global society to a more sustainable, more social future. So I hope you enjoyed our presentation and that we could give you a few insights in measuring ESG media awareness and its role and importance for corporate communications. So thank you. And we, Lilia and I, are looking forward to your questions. So Romina, stage is yours again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I actually really love this. I think, I don't know how about you, but I hope you were taking notes of these specific keywords that Maximilian was pointing out, because the way I see it, it works a little bit like the stock market. You can choose whether or not to invest on these topics, to make them your own, to apply them to your own business strategy, and not just strategic communication, but actually taking one step beyond and just saying, okay, if I take this topic and I make it my own, I could even create specific products, campaigns, and complete strategies that go way beyond just communication. So I actually would love to talk to Maximilian again in a couple of months and see what happened with these topics. It's kind of, okay, so did it work? Did it work? What happened with it? And who is talking about it? It's kind of a very, very interesting way of looking at communication planning, and specifically for those of you working in a newsroom type of atmosphere when planning your content, this is definitely food for future campaigns. So I don't know if anyone would want to just ask a question, please. If so, just unmute yourself and go for it. Otherwise, I would just like to first of all thank both of our speakers, and I would actually have one question for you, Lilia, just because I know we spoke about this during our preparation for this panel, and I was actually really surprised to see that, let's say, everything that has to do with cryptocurrencies was not popping into these new fresh investment trails, and especially because you mentioned that there were even students investing, and I thought they have to find this cool and they have to be all over the place. So did it come at all into your results? Is it just maybe a foreign issue and not happening in Moscow, or how do you see this topic?
All the topic about cryptocurrencies is in the middle between finance and technology. So it's financial technology and what goes to that. And yes, as you know, the market of financial technology, we can't say that it's a big market in Russia. No, still not. So I think, yes, there is a difference between financial technology market in our country and in other parts of the world. So I would say and the perception of the market is more about like IT market still. So I would say that if there was a choice for our retail investors, they would put it on IT and not trying to differentiate between IT and financial technology. So fintech market, as we call it. So yes, that's I would say my understanding of what's going on that part. Thank you for the question.
You're very welcome. Maximilian, now I'm going to poke on you because, you know, it all sounds very cool and very futuristic when you mention all of these fancy topics, but how do you how do you apply actually these type of topics on a measurement perspective? So how do you track this down?
Well, we are using our monitoring tools for online, social media, print, as far as it is reaching. And as you already said, it's like kind of a stock. So you have the chance to occupy topics while they have still low coverage, and you can use it in communications. You can plan your corporate strategy for it, and if a topic is rising up, you have already occupied it. So yes, that would be that's actually that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense. I was just wondering about this because I can imagine that if you take one of this topic on an early stage, then I mean, of course, it might be successful or not. But I was actually interested in knowing how do you control this moving forward or not? And I think, yeah, of course, if you have a proper measurement and monitoring behind your communications, then you should be able to see whether you are successful or not and whether your message is moving the needle or not. So thank you for your answer. Lilia, would you say that these new investors, retail investors, as you call them, are actually just let's say pandemic related phenomenon, or do you think that these new investment groups or this new target group in terms of retail investment are here to stay as well?
I'm pretty sure they are here to stay. So this is a new reality with which we will live, and forever, say. And this coronavirus and the pandemic time just increased their number. That's I would say maybe for investment market it is a positive change. Who knows? Yes, it's some positive consequences of pandemic. So if we can call it like that. But for in terms of communication work, it's really a new mix of investment relations and communication relations or public relations when they have to find this new space for both departments, I would say, in the company to make the work going on. And it's a new story for the company how to organize the business processes, because the instruments for communicating with the retail investors are more typical as marketing instruments, as PR instruments, and they're not typical for investment relations. And but the information and all the key messages, I would say that the owners in the company are investment department, and so that will be a new business process in the company, and we see how it's already going in with our clients. They share their experience, and yes, it's a new story, and definitely the new target audience with which we will live forever. So yes, please welcome them.
yes, I'm always happy to discover not only new topics and trends, but also new target groups. This is fantastic. So thank you for that already. And also something that was quite striking for me on your presentation was the way these new target groups inform themselves. And this is always a very, very vivid topic in terms of, in this context, and now I'm going to say one of these big buzzwords, disinformation. Hello. You know, I mean, if there was someone missing on the pandemic context, was the disinformation wave, and how, you know, how to trust the information that these consumers are using and where to publish our messages. So you were going into this a little bit, and I actually thought to myself, okay, well, but you know, is it wise to go into one of these blogs and post your content, you know, just, let's say, a little bit blinded, just because they are there? Should there be, I mean, would you advise to do some sort of fact checking first, or try to track the reputation of the blogs, or how would you advise communication professionals to go about this issue?
For sure, track the reputation of those blogs and filter the most authoritative ones, the ones where it's already a big audience to talk with, and they already have a good reputation in terms of their information that they post on their blog. And for example, in Russia, for your information, we have a case. One of the most popular financial blogs is organized by the bank. And so they have this blog, and they're ready to post any information on any companies. And that's one of the most popular blogs those retail investors read. And that's, for example, we can't say this blog is not a good one. It's a good one. Yes, and they check the information. So yes, that's, for example, one of the examples to talk about. By the way, I have a question for Maximillian, if you don't mind.
Please.
Oh, I'm always happy. I mean, go for it. I mean, I can keep on asking you. You know, I love this. I have you on my, you know, on my grip, so I can just ask. But please take it over.
Yeah, too. Maybe our audience, yes, and the people who are listening to us, please ask their questions in messages, or yeah, you can unmute yourself if you would like to ask it. But yes, I have a question to Maximillian, because you were talking about different narratives, and would you, I would say, segment them or differ them from positive to negative? Because I saw those greenwashing, which has, for example, in Russia, definitely a negative connotation. So we think it as a negative wording for ESG, but it's on pretty high place in your list of topics, yes? Whereas I think it was on 3rd or on 4th place. Is it a risk for communication specialists? Is it a risk for the companies? And what would be your advice to track it, to, I don't know, to compete with it on the other topics? That's my question.
Thank you. So I'm not sure if it's the right question for a media intelligence company, because what you're saying, if I'm understanding you right, is the semantic of these topics. But within our research, we are detecting the development of this topic. So it is possible that the description or the name of a topic is changing with the time because of political debates, because of the influence of communication stakeholders. And this is something what we are detecting, and if we find a new topic in our thought-leading media, which we think has the potential to rise in the future, we not only note it to monitor its further development, but we also give a short description of it. And so we can have also a look on the development of its meaning.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's good information that it can be developed. Yes, and the meaning of the topic is developing, and we should track also the meaning of the topic, how it develops. Yes,
and as you said, fully right, there are also discrepancies between nations, between cultures. Between ESG is in Europe, I think, a very common word, a very common topic, which hasn't yet it isn't a red flag for many companies. I think most companies try to engage with it and try to communicate with its stakeholders in a positive way. Yes.
Yeah, of course, in a positive. Yeah.
So I would actually have a question for Maximilian first, and then I have one more question for both of you. And I promise, and I stay quiet. Maximilian, I was mentioning, actually in my previous question to Lilia, I was talking about the topic of disinformation and the way of, let's say, driving your communication in a somewhat safe manner. Do you have any, let's say, tricks to go around disinformation?
To go around disinformation, we are cooperating with providers which help us in detecting disinformation, which have sources in media listed as highly trustworthy or not. So, and there are some helpful tools within this segment, and yes, we can do that, yeah.
So basically, you would go to one of your clients and tell them, hey, I found these new cool topics and you should try to include them in your strategic communication. And do you give also some sort of advice in terms of I don't know, some media competency, or I don't know how to call it. Do you have something to let's say pair to this product?
Mm-hmm. So if we detect a new topic and we communicate it to our clients or client, he could also get information about where this topic was found first, which are the receptionists of this topic, also who are the readers, the viewers of the media, which were the court first, and we can give information about the reach. We can give information about the detail in which the topic was described, and so on. Yes.
Thank you for that. And so my last question, at least for today, I'm pretty sure I will get back to you guys after this session because I keep on having questions in my head. But anyways, it doesn't really matter. So the last question for me would be, clearly, you both stated a very straightforward message. ESG is here to stay, but this is not a static topic. It's something that is kind of systemically evolving, and we need to keep our eyes open for new topics, new trends, and new target groups. So moving forward, how do you plan to serve your clients around ESG, or how would you recommend PR professionals to talk to their clients on this matter?
Mm-hmm. Who start?
You are talking, so you can start.
Yeah. First of all, we would propose to make a media analysis based on UN goals and all the topics which are discussed, to see if there is a niche to talk about on ESG in the media, and to compare the company and the brand to the competitors and what they are talking about, and what are their strengths, I would say, to use also in your own communication strategy. And the second part I would recommend, because you know that we do a lot of reputation service, I would recommend include ESG as a separate and new reputation factor to be analyzed and to be measured, because it's not just CSR, it's not just corporate and social responsibility, because we were discussing a lot in our analysis department if we should change it, just rename it from CSR to ESG. No, we can't do it as it is, and we need to include a new one and to track it as a new one, and to see if CSR goes away or not, if it's just a new word for CSR, or it's another topic and another reputation factor to be measured. So that will be our approach to ESG measurement.
Thank you, Lilia. Maximilian?
Well, I would follow up on Lilia's statement, because as I said in the third part of my presentation, there are already a lot of topics which are competing ESG as the main topic of the future, like care economy, or some others like impact capitalism, hydrogen economy, and so on. And we, with first signals, we are able to prepare our clients on a regular basis about new upcoming topics, which we are monitoring with our tools and give them a steady view on the development of these topics. So that would be our approach.
Thank you. Okay, I would like at this point to thank you all for listening, and Lilia and Maximilian, of course, for presenting and for all your answers. For all of you attending, we will share the recording of this session with you, so you can actually watch it later on and maybe share it with your teams and draw your own conclusions. Once more, I would like to thank AMEC for giving us this space and the opportunity to share with all of you PR and measurement professionals. And without any further, I would like to wish you all a wonderful day and hope to see you soon in some other event, hopefully eventually in person. So take care, stay healthy. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.